This is the G.I. Joe Classified Series Cobra Firefly version 2.0. Oh my goodness, he looks so much better. I'm so glad I held off from picking up that Cobra Island Target exclusive Firefly. It wasn't too, I wasn't 100% with it. Didn't really like that he had that vest and all that. It was okay. But I knew Hasbro would come up with a better version of Firefly. They always do. They always love to re-release their figures. So glad I waited for this figure. I picked up this figure from a Robo in Singapore. Cannot wait to show him off. Let's get this guy out of packaging. And here is Classified Series Firefly 2.0 out of the box. And man, the figure looks absolutely amazing. He's got some amazing accessories. And the whole detailed sculpt and aesthetic of the figure takes you back to collecting G.I. Joes way back in the 80s. If you had this figure back in the day, you are going to love this new version of Firefly. I never had Firefly. I've always wanted one. It was so impossible to get the old vintage figure. Back in the 80s, toys weren't you couldn't get action figures here and there. You couldn't go online. There was no online back then. And you had to go to a toy shop, a physical toy store to get figures. And one of the figures I had sorely missed, I really wanted one, was Firefly. I thought it was a very cool character on the show. One of my favorite Cobras. Let's take a closer look at the details of this new Firefly. Head to toe, the figure stands at about 16 1/4 centimeters tall, or about 6 1/3 inches tall. And for comparisons, here he is with Classified Series Storm Shadow. This is version 1.0, as well as the version 1.0 of Destro. And he is about the same height as Storm Shadow, with about 1 millimeter shorter than Destro. Now here's everything that came in the packaging of this Classified Series Firefly. Obviously you have the box, and inside the box you have an insert with more of the monochrome box art, this box art right there in the background, and the figure was attached to that sleeve with some plastic ties. And then you've got this weapons case or box that's sort of designed to be like a tool kit or an explosive, an ordnance kit, ordnance box, transport carrier. It's got Cobra number 84 and Firefly. And inside this box, it was a baggie, the Classified Series printed baggie of Cobra and G.I. Joe logos. And here are all the accessories. First off, he comes with a backpack. This backpack has tons of details. He's got some explosives, he's got some readouts here and there, and it plugs in nicely on his back. I'm glad that the peg isn't as soft, or it's still kind of soft, but it's positioned in the middle so that you can easily plug that in. And then he comes with his remote control. I guess this is his drone. The drone's wheels do rotate independently. And then it comes with a remote controller, which he can hold. He holds it, I think, better with the left hand, and you can have him control that that his remote control is RC. And it has a slot right there. You can just store it right there at the bottom of his backpack. The remote control, I haven't figured out a way where else to plug it except here. That's the place where I store the remote control. Okay, he does come with dagger. You can store it on his sleeve or his gauntlets. Honestly, the gauntlets I think are not necessary. They could have done with a like a boot sheath for the knife. The gauntlets were actually, I don't know, they were a little bit distracting for me, but it's all right. And then he comes with I can't remember what machine gun this is, but it's a semi-automatic machine gun, which you can store right here. You just plug the trigger guard right there on the back. And then he comes with a pistol, an automatic pistol, which has a suppressor. You can remove it and then put the pistol in his holster. The suppressor, you can actually store it here on the muzzle of the automatic weapon. But it is going to expand that hole and make it a little bit loose to connect on the pistol. So my suggestion again is right here beside the remote control for the car, for the drone. That's the best place I know. There's no other slot. I couldn't find any other slot on his pistol belt or on his bandolier and all that. Okay, and then finally, I think the best accessory he has are these goggles, the night vision. I think they're more than night vision. They're like scanning goggles or targeting goggles. They really fit nicely on the head of this figure, and I want to commend the designers at Hasbro for really taking the time to use rulers and micrometers and measuring instruments to really find the perfect measurements to have these goggles fit right onto the head of Firefly. And it doesn't stretch it out. I mean, they've measured it perfectly so that the plastic that this accessory is made of doesn't get stretched when you put it on the head. And he can even rest on his forehead like that, as you saw in the beginning of the video, which is actually pretty cool. Okay, on to the details of the figure. You can get a look at that head sculpt on my copy of the figure. Yeah, the head sculpt, pretty good, painted nicely. The eyes are a little bit wonky. Just a little bit off-centered blue paint on the iris, but it's okay. All over his uniform, you get some camo, urban camo design, I think. You got the bandolier, some nice details right there, some grenades. You got pistol belts, more belt. There's another thigh belt right here. I guess these are detonators or something. They could have put the knife here instead of the gauntlets, but you know, okay. Boots. Some of the parts do feel recycled. That's okay. As far as articulation goes, the neck is on a ball joint up top, in the middle, and at the bottom, so triple ball joint. The shoulders have butterfly hinges. You go in and out with on a hinge, swivels forward and backward 360. You got a bicep swivel, pinless double jointed elbows. On my copy of the figure, the lower joint on both elbows, they were pretty tight. The others were okay. The wrists are on swivels and they hinge in and out. This one hinges up and down. He's got a ab crunch, ball jointed waist, drop down ball joint hips, forward, backward, do the splits. Got a thigh swivel, a little bit tight in my copy. Double jointed knees. The lower hinge on the knee was a little tight in the beginning, but when I articulated it, it's still tight right here. The calves are on swivels. There's a boot cut. Ankles go up and down and have the rocker tilt. My only complaint about articulation, I think articulation is great on this figure, but at least on my copy, the joints do feel a little loose. And like I said, the only tight joints were the lower joints right here on the elbows and the knees and the thigh swivel. But other than that, everything seems to be a little loose. And I think that's because they recycled a lot of the bits and pieces here and there. As far as paint apps go, stellar job on the paint apps. Nothing to complain about. Overall, it is an amazing figure, and really, quite frankly, an homage to the 80s Firefly. I think this is a better version of Firefly. I don't have the Cobra Island version. I've seen it in shops, but it's still going for what, $35 to $38. I'm not about to pick something up like that because I knew Hasbro was going to come up with a better looking Firefly. Something I forgot to mention, the magazine clip on the automatic weapon is removable, and you can actually have him connect the ammunition, ready to go. And so some final thoughts on this classified series, Firefly. Man, I really enjoyed this figure. I think it is the better version of the classified series Firefly. I may or may not get the first version, but needless to say, I am very happy with this figure. It's got some great accessories, the details, the aesthetic, even the sculpting on most of his accessories is just so spot on how Firefly looked back in the 80s, and much more. Obviously, it's just got more details now. It's got more modern feel to it. I just really enjoyed this figure. This figure is going to get a 10 out of 10 if you can get your hands on this figure. Man, if you're a big fan of the character, you are going to love this figure. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think of this G.I. Joe classified series Cobra Firefly figure number 84. Let me know in the comments, and as always, hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of my latest video reviews. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.